So in this video, I want to talk about an anime called Tales of Wedding Rings. And then of course the tags for this are action, ecchi, fantasy, harem, isekai, romance, supernatural. And the thing that I actually do like about this is because there's some goods and there's some bads. And I'll get into the goods and the bads and I'll balance it all out and give my overall thoughts and opinions. And you can decide yourself if this is a series that you do want to watch, or if you don't want to watch, or if you're just looking for my general opinion on it as a whole. Now this is based on a manga. The first season is meant to be 12 episodes, and of course as of right now I've only watched 10 because that's all that's currently out, but I feel like 10 episodes is a good enough basis of knowing what the series is about. But one of the positives, and I thought was interesting, and this is more so in the recent episodes, is that actually the main protagonist and the cast of the girls has kind of, well, the main girl herself, the first girl, has kind of gone from the fantasy world to the world that we would classify as our world, which is Japan, and they've lived there for a period of time and then had to go back. And of course the main protagonist, the male protagonist, has followed through, or followed her, because he's in love with her, and then becomes of course the ring bearer, and then looks for a bunch of the girls. And now they're missing one of the girls, but they decide to go back to Japan because of the whole situation of the bad guy getting too strong. Now there's some positives and there's some negatives about having that component of the bad guy just suddenly getting all powerful already. I mean, it adds a sense of urgency. It does kind of show that, hey, there's a big bad guy. There's also other political stuff going on as well, sort of this like empire kind of thing where they're trying to gain power and utilize certain things to their advantage. So there's many different strings. It isn't just good versus, good versus evil in the most sort of plain one-dimensional sense, but there is other layers to it. But for me, it's just one of those where the big issue at the start is what I would call the cheerleader issue, where the guy is just straight away getting a bunch of girls. He's going from every 2 episodes or so, he's picking up a new girl, and now he's looking for the final girl. But because of how bad the situation has gotten, they've had to go back to Japan, and the Gramps kind of guy, which I liked because he kind of felt like the audience kind of shaking the main protagonist, saying, hey, get it on with these girls, because some of these girls, you know, well, actually all of them, they are interested in him, but he has general feelings for one of the girls, but he's also kind of digging the whole idea of a harem. But a lot of these girls do just feel like cheerleader squads, and it does feel like as the episodes are going on, it's harder for the anime to kind of focus on these girls. The story does feel like it's going very fast. I did have a look at the manga, and by the end of season 1, it should be around 30 chapters, so there's ample enough material for another season. But for me, I just do feel like the story is going very, very fast, and it does feel like, because it's going fast, I don't get enough time to kind of find interest in each of the girls. They give you a little bit of a backstory, why they kind of like the main protagonist, but he does feel kind of wishy-washy still. It's just the reasons why the girls like him, I kind of feel are very paper thin. But again, there are some interesting parts to it. The kind of the flip-flopping on the isekai part, where they go in and out of different the 2 worlds, is kind of cool. The fact that the evil entity isn't just one, there's like other things going on. And the fact that you can see it as good and bad, that the main villain is kind of getting stronger very quickly, so it kind of keeps things kind of going, rather than just being like a game of Pokemon. Go around to all the locations, get all the girls, and then fight the evil. The evil is constantly at his doorstep, kind of like really pushing the urgency of getting these girls. It just feels like the world is very small, because it's like every episode he's just suddenly in a new location, riv one of those girls there, and just instantly picking them up. So it feels like the world is very small, and it doesn't feel like you get much time to learn more about the girls or anything like that. Kind of think of something like 100 Girlfriends. One of the things that I like about 100 Girlfriends is that they do add time to explain what these girls mean, why you should like them, why they like the main protagonist, and then also having little bits and pieces of breaks in between, explaining more about these characters and the interactions between them, while this just feels very high paced and it doesn't really have any time to breathe. Which I get the urgency because of all the bad things going on, but like I said before, the world feels very small, and I feel like the reasoning they're trying to shrink the world is just to make it so that he just goes from one location to the next, quickly picking up these next girls. It would just be nice if, as he's traveling to these locations with this urgency, there's that little bit of room to get to know all of these girls in the towns and the people. It just feels kind of rushed, in my opinion. Again, rushed animes are not a bad thing. I'm just saying, for me, there's some things that I would have liked to have seen in some of these episodes to kind of give a little bit more flavor to the girls and make me kind of feel a little bit more attached to them. The only thing that I really kind of get attached to is just how hot they are. Like, that's it. It's just like, are they waifu material? Okay, sure. That's really all I seem to care about. Well, that's all I care about, which is just disappointing because some of them seem to have some interesting hooks in them as well. Like, I really like the cat girl. Like, the fact that she's kind of like the Ghislaine from Mushoku Tensei. She's like real beefy, strong, wants a strong man kind of thing. But at the same time, he's not like strong. It's the rings that give him the power and the bonds. But I did like the fact that he was trying to grow in his own personal strength, but then at the same time it does contradict itself because he's like, oh, I'm gonna fight on my own and not use magic, and then proceeds to kind of use the hidden power in the rings that isn't tied to the girls that the voice is talking. I'm like, this feels a little bit weak, but at the same time it's not like he just suddenly got stronger out of thin air, so at least it's realistic like that. Again, there are some goods and some bads about it. I definitely think if you like your harem ecchi isekai, it's perfect. It's great. You'll absolutely love it. But for me, it just would have been nice if it spent a little bit more time building the girls. Maybe later on in the future episodes, it does spend some time building these girls because there's around 80 chapters of the manga. So maybe there's more time to grow these girls, grow the world, build things up, or if it's just constant fighting. I'm very curious because the fact is that at least from the opening song and what little episodes are left, he's going to get the final girl under his sort of wing, and then you go from there. And so it's like, okay, so what's the rest of the chapters going to be? Because a lot's already happened in these chapters. I'm expecting some type of big revelation. So I think it's got some interesting hooks. I definitely think if you're into a story like this, then absolutely go for it. Because the whole premise is just basically, he's been isekai'd, he's in love with the main girl that he has to marry, and their bonds make him stronger, but he's also going to get a bunch of other girls, which are 4 other girls, so 5 girls in total, where he then marries them. Their bonds then empower his strength. So the whole premise of the story is him basically getting waifus and banging them. But he doesn't bang any of them. He's too wimpy, which probably the worst type of main protagonist to have in a story where it's built around, hey, you need to do stuff with girls to build bond to get stronger. It does, the anime is self-aware of that, because it does note in one of the episodes with the elf that they're like, oh, maybe this will be different because the main protagonist isn't so forceful and that kind of attitude. And I'm like, okay, yeah, he doesn't have to be super forceful, but you would at least think he'd at least put some priority towards trying to establish a bond, trying to get to know the girls. It's just, if a story is built around building the bonds of a relationship between 5 individual girls, you would think he would put time into actually getting to know the girls and building a relationship with them, rather than being all wishy-washy all the time and playing that whole... And I don't mind it all the time, but in this kind of situation, it does annoy me, this trope of being too scared to go near a girl and see it. But at the same time, one minute he's kind of like all too shy, and then he's like, ooh, I want that. It's like, it's hot and cold. I would like to see more of it, and I actually feel like this anime could use an extra core or an extra season to get me more invested in it, because it's starting to kind of get some interesting premises going, and some of the girls' chemistries are starting to get more interesting, but it's just like, that's the thing, I feel like it is going too fast, but I would also like some more episodes to give me a little bit more to work with. I know it kind of sounds a little bit contradictory, but it's like, adding so many girls so quickly, I think actually made it hard for me to build an attachment to all these girls, other than the first one, because it had a little bit more time to build her out. I just kind of wish there was even one more episode in between each girl would have given me a little bit more room to kind of feel a little bit more chat. If they gave a little bit more to them, a little bit more time to shine, the backstory, etc., maybe then I would have liked it a little bit more. I think it's still a really good anime. I'm just giving my constructive criticism because I do like the premise of the story, and I do like the fact that it is a little bit self-aware of what it's trying to do, and the old geezer, the sage, also had an interesting romance as well, kind of hinted at. I'd love to see more of that explored later on, but also I like the fact that he feels like he's the audience. That sage feels like me, just kind of shaking the main protagonist, saying, hey, this is your job, get romantic, get busy, boy, because the girls aren't resistant, they're interested, except the water girl. She's a little bit more timid and shy, but she kind of warms up a little bit here and there. So I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think of the anime known as Tales of the Wedding Rings? I definitely will be watching the final 2 episodes and seeing where it goes from there. And hey, you never know, maybe it will get a season 2 at a later date, but I do think this is definitely a source material seller. So again, if you like this video, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.